to that real, it's like you could live that fraud or that, which wasn't completely a fraud because it was still stuff that you love doing and you're being you, but it wasn't your complete self.
Yeah.
You would continue doing that unless something was there to really make an impact to stop you doing that.
Yeah.
So it's almost like when you say the gift, or, people say the gift in an illness or a diagnosis or cancer or some other life-changing situation, and people say look for the gift, it's like that gift was allowing you to really connect back with yourself, then to connect with community, and to connect with nature, but through the lifestyle changes that you were making with your diet.
Yes. And so the gift is actually the intervention.
Yeah.
The intervention that strips all those layers back for you to come back to what is essential. And like cancer actually said to me, the loudest voice it had for me through the whole thing, and still to today, is what is your best version of yourself? What lights you up? Because I know now through my studies of mind-body connection, through work like Brandon Bay's The Journey, that we hold on to stories and we hold on to ways of being that actually embeds themselves in the knowledge that we can store in ourselves. And so when you're living a good version of yourself, then literally your cells respond and light up. So when you say, shine your light, we are actually meaning that both metaphorically and physically. You can see when somebody's shining because it's physical in their body. They are lighting up the room. And so when you're faced with your own mortality, gun to your head, that's what it's saying. What is the best version of yourself? Because you become no longer willing to do anything else but do what it is that lights you up. It becomes so clear. It's black or it's white. There is no grey in between anymore. You're either doing it because it lights you up or you don't bother. And I used to concern myself, I think like many of us do, with the grey that's in between. The explanations as to why you're still in the job that you don't like, the explanations as to why I was in that house that I didn't want to be in and the life that I didn't want to be in. I could justify immensely. And that was all the grey. But a chronic illness or any major life intervention is a message from our true selves, I think, to ourselves that shakes you up and says, who are you and how do you want to live? And drop the grey and see that there are only ever two choices. Is it going to light you up? Is it good for you? Therefore good for everybody around you or not?
Yeah. What you say has so much gold in it and so much truth in it, and whether someone's had a diagnosis or anything major happen in their life, those words of living your best version are still so true. But I suppose what happens when you've had a situation like yours, it may be easier to start actioning those words than when you don't. Often those words just stay words or great motivational quotes that we see so commonly on social media that just are those but words on a quote.
Because we live the grey. We are creatures of the grey. We have a thought, we have mind, we have subconscious, we have reasoning as human beings. I think most of us live in the grey. I still live in the grey sometimes, obviously, but I mean, when that grey disappears, the actions become real because we don't have the same reasoning anymore. We can't keep justifying doing something if there's a death sentence at your door. Now, isn't it interesting to think and feel, is it possible? Do other people have to have something so radical happen in their life for that grey to fall away and for things to become crystal clear? I mean, the hope is that we don't need that level of intervention. And that's why there is a huge industry of self-help. And, so we can come to the conclusions ourselves in our own time and make the changes slowly over time.
I think that's all the ideal, but in reality, the reality that I've experienced with seeing, people, employees at companies with a lot of the corporate health work that I do, or just clients with people that have got their own businesses, or mums, whether it's about our physical well-being, whether it's about our psychological or emotional well-being, our relationships, a lot of the choices that we make in life, in all of our areas of life, most people know what they need to do. It is black and white, with a bit of confusion, definitely a bit of confusion on the nutrition side of things, because that's very confusing. But generally, people know that they need to exercise, that it helps to make, has so many benefits to it, physically and emotionally. People know that eating well helps you physically and emotionally. People know that having a job that is fulfilling makes a difference. Having relationships that aren't abusive, that, everybody knows all these things. And although knowing them can feel black or white, I still think for the reality is that most people still find the actioning of what they know to be true really difficult.
Yes.
Sustainably difficult.
I feel the same. I've been in that. We're all in that. But maybe life isn't about that one big intervention to the next intervention. The truth is we're always getting little interventions.
100%.
Always. We don't need to live life from the big happenings. So, it's about the guidance. It's about learning to listen when your body speaks, learning to listen when your intuition speaks, learning to listen when you get these unexpected pieces of random advice, even from a stranger, anything that feels right and true. And, we might not listen to it for the first 5 times, but maybe on the 6th time we will. And my belief is that we all have within us the true self, the true essence of ourselves. And that true self is constantly whispering to us and orchestrating experiences in our lives for us for one purpose, to bring us closer to ourselves. That's it. Now, when we come closer to ourselves, it's not an isolating lone task. What I'm experiencing as I come closer to myself is that ultimately I'm coming closer to other people. Because we are actually all very, very connected and similar. It's undoubtable. It's a very interesting formula that anyone that's on the path of seeking truth and living their best life, that knows that as you come closer to yourself, you feel more connected with others, probably because as you come closer to yourself, you're coming closer to humanity, the humanity of being human.
Yeah. Which I suppose when we talk about that humanity, it makes me think about what you were talking about in community really stepping up and coming to you in your time of need and showing, to me, when I think of humanity, I think of kindness and selflessness and care and integrity. All of those things is what I think of when I think of humanity. And that is what you received when you were in that situation. So you felt firsthand at a time when you were really vulnerable what true humanity feels like.
And that was part of the healing.
Yeah.
That was the medicine.
Yeah. And which is the wealthy living mantra, which is connection is medicine. And so yeah, it really is, it feels really aligned. Your whole story feels really aligned to that, and how the connection which is and or was and now is your medicine.
Yeah, I'm learning every day how to keep reaching out, and also how that connection is a two-way street. It's not just me receiving the support that I have for so long been lacking, in the community. It's also learning how to be in the community. How do I engage with it? What can I do to give of myself? And I think that was the missing link is I didn't know how to give, I didn't know how to receive, so no wonder I was so stuck. I was in a holding pattern.
Yeah, and there are so many people in that holding pattern, and I know personally for myself, I have been in times and I waver in and out of that pattern.
Yeah.
You know, I so much crave and want, and everybody I think craves and ideally wants that connection and community, but yet we make choices that don't support what we really want. And I think that for different people it'll be for different reasons based on different experiences and different conditionings and whatever else. But it is, you know, when I've seen, especially amongst groups of women that I've worked with, and we've had group discussions about support and about asking, about giving, about receiving. And I think that the part which is the most difficult for people is the asking.
Yes, I experienced that, absolutely. Because when somebody is truly in need, like I was in need of a weekend off. I was in need of the nourishment of what it means to be myself. And to ask someone to pick your kid up from school when you so need that afternoon to do what it is you need to do, the possibility of them saying no is devastating because the need is so high.
Yeah. And when there's expectation attached to a need,
yes,
then if there is a no, it becomes a feeling of rejection rather than an understanding that person just literally could not help you out at that time.
Right. That's right. You take it personally.
Yeah. And I know for me, for example, I'm not great at asking, yet when I do ask, it's generally at a time that I am so desperate for help that because I've got to that point of desperation for the help, I have an attachment to the outcome.
Yes, I so hear you. And I can actually hear all the listeners feeling in their cars listening to this podcast right now. This murmuring of, yes, I get it.
Yeah, and when you do have that attachment to the outcome, that's when you set yourself up for that disappointment.
That's right. And so the trick is, how do you not wait? How do you not wait until something happens where you need help so much that the possibility of someone saying no is devastating to you? And, you know, that's the practice that I'm in right now. Every single day I make little requests and I make little offers to anyone who I see and perceive needs help around me. And it's like a little muscle that you work, and I feel like it's a lifelong practice.
Yeah.
And this is just the beginning, you know.
It's definitely a practice, and it's a practice of getting into the flow of the giving and then the receiving.
Yeah.
But I also feel that it's also it can also be really pragmatic to the level of being organised and knowing, you know, what is coming up in your week and what might you need help with, and planning, you know, and actually being organised or knowing, you know, I think that a lot of people, and it's not just about organisation as a mother with kids or anything like that, it can be a completely different type of needs.
Often we're on survival mode, you know, we're living day to day.
That's right. So it's about knowing, you know, sitting back, leaning back, stopping, pausing, reflecting on what's working well, what's not working well, of all the things that aren't working well, where can I get support to help me? Writing a list of the areas you might feel you need support on, then possibly looking at who could I reach out to with those situations? What can I do it on my own?
How can I fill the gaps?
That's right.
Yeah, and we can't do it all.
That's right. And I'm sure you were so fantastic at that and still are when it comes to your organisation for what Yellow Lantern needs.
Do you know what?
What facilitators they need. What
I get that, But it's always at the last minute. When you're on survival mode,
Yep.
I have to say, back to this being open and not